Sami Bahous.
Mr. President, distinguished members of the Council, let me begin by commending Panama for ensuring that this discussion spotlights the rights and realities of women and girls in the Sahel, where the world's gravest concerns converge: terrorism, coups, environmental collapse, poverty, hunger, dwindling development financing, shrinking humanitarian access, a weakening multilateral system, and a declining UN presence on the ground. Women and girls of the Sahel bear the brunt: abduction, early forced marriage, genital mutilation, and lack of access to education or livelihoods. I will highlight how 5 of these overlapping crises land specifically, violently, and disproportionately on the bodies of women and girls and on their futures. Some of the data I present draws on recent briefings shared by the UN Special Coordinator for the Sahel. First, terrorism. No region is more affected. Life for women and girls under terrorist control is one of erasure from public space. Their freedom, movement, and appearance are policed and restricted. In Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, over 1 million girls are out of school because of attacks or threats. Abduction is not a byproduct of terrorism in the Sahel. It is a tactic. In Burkina Faso alone, the number of women and girls abducted rose by over 218% last year. Across the wider region, 60% of out-of-school girls have never set foot in a classroom. When a girl loses her education, she becomes vulnerable to mutilation, to early marriage, to early pregnancy, and to trafficking. In Mali, Niger, Chad, and Burkina Faso, child marriage rates rank among the highest in the world. Female genital mutilation affects 90% of women in Mali and 76% in Burkina Faso. Maternal mortality itself, driven by early pregnancy and poverty, is tragically among the highest anywhere on earth. Second, poverty. As violence displaces families and shutters markets, women's livelihoods vanish and household resilience collapses. Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, and Niger are in the bottom 10 countries globally on the Human Development Index and on the Gender Development Index. Third, food insecurity. Levels nearly doubled this summer compared to just 18 months ago. Droughts grow harsher, with heat-related mortality expected to increase 4-fold in the region by 2080. The distances women and girls travel to fetch water or firewood are growing longer, with their safety is shrinking. 2/3 report feeling unsafe on these journeys in a region that already ranks amongst the highest globally for reported cases of sexual and gender-based violence. Fourth, the world is pulling away. Humanitarian funding is drying up. Only 8% of this year's humanitarian needs were funded by this May. Development assistance has dropped by nearly 20% in the last 2 years. The impact of this cannot be denied. In Burkina Faso, 45% of women's empowerment projects have been suspended. Inflation and debt is squeezing gender equality out of budgets. Funding for women, peace, and security is often the first to go out. Gender ministries are being merged, erased, or defunded. Fifth, democratic space closing in. In many parts of the Central Sahel, the space for civil society, media, and women's political participation is shrinking. In Niger, just 14% of participants in a recent national conference on institutional reforms were women. In Mali, only 2 women took part in drafting the new national charter out of 36 members. Excellencies, distinguished members of the Council, despite all this, there is hope. In Chad, women now hold 30% of parliamentary seats, double the previous share, and the 2023 constitution pledges to end child marriage, and FGM. Women's organizations in the Central Sahel continue to engage with transitional authorities. In Mali and Niger's border zones, women's participation in conflict prevention rose from 5 to 25%, helping resolve over 100 natural resources conflicts. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have committed to advancing women's political participation and upholding Security Council resolutions on women, peace, and security. The European Union has committed 6 million euros to Chad's Women, Peace and Security Plan. I encourage others to do the same. Joint UN programming increased adolescent girls' return by 23% return to school and doubled women's local governance participation in 34 conflict-affected communities. The World Bank funded Sahel Women Empowerment and Demographic Dividend Initiative has reached over 3 million adolescent girls with health care, safe spaces, and life skills. The Gender Compact for the Sahel, led by UNOWAS, the Special Coordinator, and UN Women, is ensuring the UN system delivers tangible targets on women's leadership, participation, and gender analysis. Mr. President, this year marks the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and the 25th anniversary of Security Council Resolution 1325, an opportunity to recommit to the women and girls of the Sahel. I call on you to urge governments and regional bodies to ensure women's full, equal, meaningful, and safe participation in transitional governments and peace and security efforts. Implement affirmative action laws and ensure a safe, open space for civil society. Invest at least 15% of violent extremism prevention funding in gender equality and ask for engendered updates from sanctions and counterterrorism bodies. Support the rapid deployment of women protection advisors to UNOWAS to monitor sexual violence trends, engage with parties to conflict, and secure time-bound commitments. And even in a challenging financial landscape, I urge international partners to provide direct, flexible, long-term funding to women-led and women's rights organizations through mechanisms such as the Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund and the Peace Building Fund. Above all, Excellencies, let us recall that women from the Sahel have been telling us all along, we cannot abandon the Sahel, whatever the politics, whatever the funding landscapes, whatever the geopolitical headwinds. So let us stand with the women of the Sahel, not out of charity, but in recognition of their power to shape a better future. Thank you.
Agradezco a la señora Bahous la información que ha proporcionado. Doy ahora la palabra a la señora